Hey everybody, welcome. I wanted to do a quick video this week to talk a little bit about two games that I love personally, Final Fantasy XI and Destiny 2. Final Fantasy XI is coming up on its 20th year anniversary. I've been playing that game since the day it came out 20 years ago almost. And I've also been playing Destiny 2 since the pre-alpha D1. It was the pre-alpha beta or whatever came out on the day that my daughter was born 6 years ago. So I've been playing Destiny since then. I love both of these games, and I've, you know, as have happened with both, I've had ups and downs. I've had times where I've been sick of playing them and I've wanted to do something different, and I've had times where I've been full on into them. And I think that I think it's an interesting comparison to make between these two games because I think that they are very similar. At first, they might seem vastly different, but I think underneath all that, the reason I love them both and the reason I keep coming back to them both is that they share some of the key characteristics that I find appealing just generally in video games. And I wanted to talk a little bit about those things in this video. So the first thing, of course, that I'll mention is the story. If you want to go check out some really cool story stuff for Final Fantasy XI, go check out the Mog House on YouTube. He's got some really amazing story content for 11 that you can look at. I think Final Fantasy XI has one of the most intricate and deep stories of any video game. It spans the course of centuries. It involves political intrigue, various nationalities, tribes, beastmen. The fate of the world is continuously hanging in the balance when it comes to Final Fantasy XI. And there's just so much going on in the story of 11 that, you know, it makes the world feel deep and real. And I love that about 11. Destiny is the same way. I recently watched a YouTube video by a YouTuber named My Name is Bife, and he has these amazing Destiny videos, and one of them is a complete recap of the lore of Destiny 2, all the way back to the very, very beginning of the world and the mythologies that exist in this world. It's a 4.5-hour video, and I would highly recommend that you go watch it if you have the time, because it's amazing. And that video, I would attribute, you know, that video to bringing me back to the game. In a big way. Like, I was kind of out of love with Destiny for a little while there. The past couple of seasons worth of content haven't been super appealing to me. But watching this video and just kind of being reminded of the deep, deep lore that exists in this game and how cool it is and how intricate it is, it really made me see that, you know, this is a game that I love. So that's the first thing, the story in both of these games is incredible. As you can see in Destiny 2, you've got this lore book, and all this lore content has been collected in these physical books that you can actually buy. But if you wanted to at any point, you could go in here and you could read through any of these books, and it gives you this whole backstory of the game, which is really cool. I haven't read through all this myself personally. I leave that to the professionals, like My Name is Bife, to go in there and make those amazing videos. But I think that having that in there is just a really amazing option for the game, and I love it. I also love the way this game has like these little flavor text things on your weapons. I think this is a really neat way to make the weapons feel like they're part of the story and they're part of the world and they come from somewhere, not just like from random developers like imagination. The weapons and the gear and all of it exists in the world for a reason. It makes the game feel like it makes sense. I think that could also be a neat thing that 11 might think about doing, perhaps, and it wouldn't take much. It would just be like text files. But like, imagine if you could have like a little piece of flavor text attached to your Rimas or your mythic weapon that would kind of allude to the story and where that weapon came from and why it exists and who made it. And it'd be kind of a neat way to bring those weapons even more into the world in a real way. So the story is kind of definitely an important piece of the equation for sure. From there, the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the combat. So Final Fantasy XI has one of the greatest combat systems of any game ever made, in my opinion. It's super engaging and fun. The skill chain system is incredible. It promotes group play. It promotes working with your team in a real way. I love the pacing of the combat in 11. It's one of the problems I had with Final Fantasy 14. The pacing of combat was just way too fast for me in 14. And I didn't like it as much, even though the game was just generally faster. I liked the sort of methodical thinking approach to the combat. There's a lot of setup, there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of thinking about the fights you're going to do before you run in to do them, preparing for those fights, gearing up properly, making sure you have the right stuff you need, making sure that your team composition is synergistic. All of these things add up to a really engaging and deep combat system. Destiny doesn't quite go that far, but it does have the same flavor of like you need to have a coordinated team, especially when you get into some of the higher end content, which unfortunately I don't do a lot of. the raids and the dungeons and stuff, but that is the best content in Destiny for sure. The raids are amazing. They are strategic, they require teamwork and coordination, the boss battles are fun, there's these interesting mechanics, you need to have the right weapons and gear and equipment. All of these things sound really familiar. This is all the same kind of stuff that Final Fantasy XI is always asking you to do and to think about. So I love that. The combat system, I think, is a really key kind of component of the equation. From there, the other piece, and this might sound weird, but I think this is the truth about Final Fantasy XI. The grind is where it's at. Like, there's something about making something so difficult to obtain that when you finally obtain that thing, the feeling of satisfaction just ramps up to a crazy extent because you feel like you've done something. Like, when you get that mythic weapon in Final Fantasy XI, like, I don't have many of those. I have a Nirvana and I have a Boganir on my Dragoon, and I'm working on some stuff for my Rune Fencer. But when I got that Nirvana, after working towards that thing for like a good solid, almost a year it took me, you know, and I'm not like the fastest or most efficient player, I had some really great help from friends and stuff, but it took me a while to get that Nirvana finished. And when I got it finished, I was like, it felt meaningful. It felt really meaningful, and so I loved that about it. And Destiny has added some stuff like that. They've gotten away from quick, like, stuff where you're done with it on the first day, and they've added some stuff that takes a little longer to do. There are some quest lines that get you exotic weapons that take a little time and are difficult to do, which I don't mind doing. But then the real like piece on top of that is this newer kind of thing they added called weapon catalysts. So for all of your exotic weapons, not all of them, but for a lot of them, you can get these things called a catalyst. So here's one, for example, from this new Ruinous Effigy, right? The catalyst here, it improves the weapon. It augments it. It makes it better. And first step is you have to actually acquire the catalyst. So you have to get it from a certain means. It could be from doing a particular raid. It could be from a world drop. It could be from doing a public event a certain number of times, or other criteria. And these catalysts are kind of hidden throughout the world. Once you acquire the catalyst, then there is a series of tasks that you must do to unlock the catalyst. So something like defeat 500 enemies or something like that. And it takes some time. Like, it's grindy, but in a good way, because you're kind of working towards upgrading your gear. And of course, upgrading your gear is like a major component of Final Fantasy XI, and that's what kind of keeps me coming back, right? There always seems to be another layer, another upgrade that I can go for that will make my gear just a little bit better and make my play a little more efficient and make everything feel like I'm a little more powerful. And that's ultimately what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's feeling like you're really powerful. That's what you want, right? And I think Destiny and Final Fantasy have done that in a great way. Destiny lost the track on that when Destiny 2 came out. The game was very ubiquitous, and there wasn't a lot of distinction between, like, it didn't matter if you had what gear on. You were just still going to try and do whatever you want in the game. They've changed that. Stats are important now. You've got all these, like, you've got your stats are back, like mobility, resilience, discipline, intellect. You can tweak all of these. You can grind for gear to make, if you want to do a particular build for grenades or for super, you can do a particular build. So there's a lot more gear building built in now to Destiny 2, which I love. Again, a comparison to Final Fantasy XI, building out that perfect gear set to make your job really shine is one of my favorite parts of Final Fantasy XI. And now, again, it's one of my favorite parts of Destiny 2. So the story, the gear, the combat, all of these things, you know, and of course, the last thing is playing with other people, right? What's made 11 so good over the years is finding friends to play with and kind of getting it together, right? Like getting it done with other people, helping each other out, finding some buddies that can go out and do some stuff with you. I know for the past couple of years, we have a little 4-person group that we've been using, and it's been amazing. Got the Mog House, Aiden hunting for games in there, and we've been able to kind of tackle some of the top tier content in 11, which has been super fun. And so Destiny is kind of the same way. If you have a good group of friends and you can coordinate that and you can go do these dungeons and these raids, it's really super fun, especially now with things like the dungeons where you can do that content with only 3 people. And potentially you can kind of low person the raids too if you've got, if you're high enough power level, maybe you can go in there with 4 people and get it done for some of that stuff. So all that, the story, the multiplayer aspects, the gear acquisition, the grinding, the tweaking of the gear sets and the stats and all those things, it all comes together to make Destiny 2 and Final Fantasy XI feel like experiences that I love. And these are the kind of games that I gravitate towards. This is the reason why I'm not as interested in games like Fortnite or Rogue Company, even though I have both of those games and I like those games, and Apex Legends, like they're fun, but like there isn't that sense of like building a character. Like I want to build a character. So, you know, that's why I love Destiny, it's why I love Final Fantasy 11. If you know any other games like that you think I would love, let me know in the comments. I really appreciate you watching this video, and if you're, you know, if you want to try out Destiny or you want to try out Final Fantasy 11, there's always opportunities, so I would highly encourage you to do so. Thanks so much for watching today, and I will catch you next time.